Hello and welcome to Kivy School. This is the third version of this install guide. There are a couple changes that were discovered that streamlined the installation process. That change was that scrcpy automatically installs ADB both on WSL and on Windows. We have also updated the website and fixed some bugs, including the fact that one export command around here was incorrect. This slash was not visible in the previous Kivy School website, but now it's been fixed. This export works properly. So you can find this PowerPoint on the Kivy School website in this link at Kivy School, and then go to kivy-reloader, go to Windows, and then go to WSL2 setup targeting Android. You will see this Canva public view link, and if you open in a new tab, you will see the same presentation, and the same information will be available in the PowerPoint, in this video, and on the Kivy School website. So let's get started. So this is the Kivy-reloader tutorial for Windows targeting Android. The requirements are you need a real Android phone, a USB cable, and an updated Windows 10 or Windows 11. What you will install? You will install VSCode on Windows with a WSL extension. You will install WSL2. And on WSL2, you will install Git to git clone repositories. You will install Pyenv to install Python versions. And you will install Python installed through Pyenv. You will also use Poetry to manage projects and virtual environments and install that as well. And you will install scrcpy to mirror your phone screen to the desktop. And scrcpy auto installs ADB, which is the Android debug bridge. You will also install Chocolatey on Windows and install scrcpy through Chocolatey on Windows. Scrcpy will automatically install ADB Android debug bridge on Windows as well. Optionally, you will install VcXsrv for native Windows instead of WSLg. So here's the reference from the Microsoft website. The prerequisites. You must be running Windows 10 version 2004 and higher, build 19041 and higher, or Windows 11 to use the commands below. If you're on earlier versions, please see the manual install page. So this is the WSL manual install from Microsoft. So what is WSL2? WSL means Windows Subsystem for Linux. This means that you can access the power of Linux and Windows running on the same machine. In the Kivy for Android context, Buildozer is maintained by the core Kivy developers only on Linux builds targeting Android. Buildozer is only tested with WSL2, and as of August 2024, does not work with WSL1. Instead of making a new Linux partition, we will use the official Microsoft solution and enable WSL2. Step 1. We're going to open PowerShell or command prompt in administrator mode. Press the Windows key and type PowerShell. So Windows key, PowerShell. And then as you can see here, there's a run as administrator button. Then accept. So now in its administrator mode, the next, execute this command in your admin PowerShell. WSL --install. WSL install. So now here you would press enter, but because I have, if you can see right here, -list verbose, I have a bunch of WSL versions. I need to install a WSL version or an Ubuntu version that I don't have, just so that you know it's running from scratch. So let me WSL shut down everything. And then let's follow this instruction. You can see the list of distributions you want with WSL-L-O. So WSL-L-O. And here I need to install something I don't have. So let me pick Ubuntu 24.04. Then install the version you want with WSL install -d Ubuntu 24.04. Enter. And then we'll restart the machine. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, now I'm here. It says, please create a default Unix user account. The username does not need to match your Windows username. For more information, visit this website. So let's go continue. Let's set your user info. Reminder that in Linux, your keystrokes are recorded but are not displayed with asterisks. So be careful what you type in. What this is basically blind typing. All you do is when you type, like let's say right here. Oh, first let me type my username. Now I'm going to blind type my password. So if I type like right here, I don't know what I've typed, but also onlookers like the viewers, they're not going to know what I typed either. So it's like a security feature that Linux has. I'm going to just press backspace a lot just to remove everything I've typed. Then I'll type in my actual password. And as you can see, I typed in my password, but nobody saw it only I knew what I typed, not any random onlooker. That's just a security feature you need to be aware about on Linux. So here's a note in case you forget your Linux user or password. So here's a reference from Microsoft. Basically what happens is, what if you forgot your password? Because if you're a Windows user, you're not going to always log in on WSL and then remember your password. A lot of the Linux commands, like sudo, they ask for your password. As a Linux user, you would keep using your password and you'd have it fresh in your mind. But as a Windows user, you might not remember. So in that case, there's one option, which is you can change your Linux user password. So now I'm at Kivy School. I'm going to go to kivy-reloader, Windows, WSL2 setup. I'm going to go all the way to how to install WSL2. And then if I open this admonition, I'm going to scroll down all the way to, if you forgot your Linux user and password, click this bar to open instructions. And as you can see here, this is just how to set your user and password first. But here it says to change or reset your password, open your Linux distribution and enter the command password. You can do WSLu root, and then after that, type password username, and then you will enter a new password. So just in case you forgot, you can always reset your password. Another option is to manually backup and reset. If you forgot your Linux user and password, make sure to back up your files and uninstall WSL2 and reinstall again, or else you will lose all your progress. So this is just, last ditch effort, just in case you don't even remember your user. So now we need to check that you're running WSL2 in command prompt. So I'm going to go Windows key, CMD, command prompt, and I'm going to check if I'm running WSL2. The command is WSL-L-V, so WSL-L-V. And as you can see, Ubuntu is running, and Ubuntu 24.04, which is the new version, the fresh version I'm using as this install guide, is also running. As a note, for Buildozer to work, you must use WSL2. So this August, I would try to use WSL1 with Buildozer. It doesn't work. There's going to be some sort of compile error. It could be fixed. In my opinion, it's too much of a hassle. Just use WSL2. The next step, you're going to update your drivers. So here, I'm going to go back to Kivy School, and I'm just going to show you how to update your drivers. Basically, if you go in this link, Microsoft is going to tell you as well, you should use the updated drivers right here. And then here it says there's the Intel update, AMD update, and NVIDIA update. So if you go right here, it says how to run GUI apps. And then again, this is the Microsoft link. Check the section named Install Driver for vGPU. Install Driver for vGPU. For example, on NVIDIA, get on this website, go on Task Manager and copy your stats. For NVIDIA, it is the Game Ready driver or Studio driver. So here's the image right here. You're going to update your drivers. This is Task Manager Performance, and copy your info, and then get either a Game Ready driver or a Studio driver. The only difference is that Game Ready driver updates more frequently to match game releases. And the Studio driver, all it does is update for things like Adobe products, so it doesn't update as frequently. So if you want to learn more, here's another Microsoft link. The one thing you should know is for file storage. TLDR, files are accessed through both systems. Here's another link about it. Use the Linux file system directory to keep things in pure Linux. You do not want to keep Linux files on the Windows file system or Windows files in the Linux file system. For example, when storing your WSL project files, you should use the Linux file system root directory, like this, not the Windows file system root directory, C users project name, or mount C users username project. This is because Linux and Windows store files a little bit differently. So if you're on Linux, keep things on Linux. So if you're on Windows, keep things on Windows. So there's more useful information that Microsoft provides you in their official documentation. Let me just close this now. So for example, how to mount an external drive or USB to WSL, how to run Linux GUI apps with WSL2. So here, the answer is just using WSLg, how to get started with Git, how to set remote development containers with Docker, how to set up databases with WSL, and how to set up GPU acceleration for machine learning in WSL. Again, there's more tutorials. These are just the ones I picked out because they're pretty cool and interesting. It's outside the scope of this tutorial. But if you'd like to learn more, get on the Microsoft documentation, read these tutorials, and become an expert. Okay, and that's good enough as extra information. So now let's focus on getting your Kivy apps on WSL2 so you can start compiling with Buildozer on Android. So let's continue. Now, one thing you have to do is install Chocolatey. So why use Chocolatey? Chocolatey is a package manager for Windows. It avoids having multiple broken manual installs of software when doing manual installs. It automatically adds installed programs to path, and Choco also uninstalls apps cleanly. No need to find an uninstall guide. You also do not have to remember where you manually installed software. It also has the useful refreshenv command, so you don't have to keep reopening command prompt and PowerShell. Just type in your path, refreshenv. And if you can use Chocolatey for a package, you should. So here's the reference again, the official Chocolatey installation. The first thing you have to do is check that get execution policy is not restricted. So I'm gonna reopen my PowerShell, and here, because I'm in WSL, here's another trick. You can just type exit. You can exit WSL and go back to your PowerShell. As you can see here, I'm also back to admin PowerShell. Check the get execution policy is not restricted. So we type get execution policy. And again, as a trick, you can go back here to Kivy School. We are going to install Chocolatey. You can just go here, copy the clipboard, get execution policy. You can right click to paste, then enter. So my execution policy is remote sign. Is that okay? Yes, because it says if it returns restricted, run this. But because it's remote sign, it's okay. But if it was restricted, set execution policy bypass scope of is processed. So again, it's right here as well. All this means is that if you're restricted, you can't really run any of the commands Chocolatey needs to install itself. But because I am remote signed, I'm okay. If I run the Chocolatey commands to install, it will install correctly. So now we'll run this command. So this, I'm definitely not typing it. I'm going to Kivy School to copy. Right here, we're going to go fast. Copy to clipboard. Then go here, right click, paste, and then enter. So again, it will install for you. But for me, Choco is already installed. Now we're going to go to wait for installation to complete. And then verify installation by typing Choco. So we can type Choco. Or you can type Choco dash question mark. And you can see the list of commands. Okay, now it's time to install screen copy through Choco. So here's the reference, just the screen copy package on Chocolatey. So screen copy lets you mirror your Android phone through desktop. Screen copy will also install ADB for you. And ADB is just Android debug bridge. All it does is let your computer talk to your Android phone. Now we're going to say Choco install screen copy and then say Y for yes to all. I'm going to bring up my PowerShell. I'm going to type Choco install screen copy, enter, and as you can see, it's already installed, but for you, it should be installing. Just type capital Y for yes to all. So make sure screen copy is installed. To open a new command prompt or type refreshenv and type screen copy. So I'm going to go right here. So for me, I just will type refreshenv. It will refresh the environment variables, and then I'll type screen copy. And as you can see, screen copy is already installed in my Windows, and it already tried to connect to my device, and it failed because I haven't connected my Android phone to my computer yet. Screen copy should complain because your phone is not connected yet. If there are no errors, let's proceed to the next step. And again, the same instructions are on the Kivy School website. As you can see here, screen copy will also install ADB for you. If you need to manually install ADB, the instructions are in the next section. As well as here, in the PowerPoint, you can go screen copy automatically installs ADB. The next slides are left as a reference in case you need to manually install ADB. So you're going to test if you have ADB installed by typing in your terminal. Right here, I will just type ADB. ADB is already installed. And then here again, as a reference, how would you install ADB? Just very quick. Open PowerShell in admin mode, make sure Choco is installed, and then type Choco install ADB. Type Y, and then check if ADB is installed. So now we're going to set up VSCode for WSL. You're going to go to this link and install VSCode on your Windows system. The default settings are good to use. So I'm going to go right here, set up VSCode for WSL2. This is the installation link. So as you can see, it's the official VSCode website. Just click download for Windows. Just say yes, the defaults are fine. What we really want is the WSL extension for VSCode. The WSL extension lets you code using your Windows VS Code and use the WSL virtual environment. We're going to select the extensions icon right here. So extensions. Then in extensions type WSL. So WSL. And go right here. And as you can see, I've already installed it, but there's going to be a button here that says install. And then that's it. But what this does is basically let your VS Code on the Windows side interact with files on your Ubuntu side very seamlessly and easily. So we'll continue to the next section, which is setting up your Ubuntu WSL installation. So next, we will follow the Ubuntu installation on kivy-school.com with changes to make it work for WSL. Reminder that even if you have these programs installed in your host windows, they will not be installed in your WSL Ubuntu side. So we will install these programs in WSL: Git, Pyenv, Python, and Poetry. So the first thing we're going to do is update WSL. So the reference is here on Kivy School. Now we're going to open the WSL terminal. There's two options. You can do Windows key, WSL, or CMD, which is command prompt, and type WSL. So Windows key, WSL, enter. Now I'm on my Ubuntu. So again, on the other way, it's Windows key, CMD, WSL. Now you're in your WSL side. So now I'm just going to use the first way, which is Windows key and WSL. As you can see here, in WSL terminal, make sure WSL is updated with sudo apt-get update. And here's just a note. The terminal is great because WSL 2204 does not automatically source bashrc. Ubuntu 24.04 does automatically source bashrc. If your terminal is gray like this, you're supposed to type either bash or you're supposed to type source ~/.bashrc like this, right? And what this file is, it's just something that refreshes your terminal and updates all the commands and tells your terminal where things are. So I can even show you because I'm in the tilde folder. If you use the other way, which is CMD, you can see right here, you're actually not going to be in the tilde folder, which is the home folder. You're going to be in this like mount. You should cd to tilde like this, cd to home. So again, cd to home. Now, one thing I'm going to show you just very quickly is that this bashrc file is actually a file. So if you do ls, you're going to see nothing, right? If you do ls-a for all, you're going to see all these hidden files. One of these hidden files is just .bashrc. So I'm going to use Nano, which is just a text editor, .bashrc. And it's already being edited. So let's just open it anyways. Yeah. As you can see, it's just a file. Do not modify this. Do not touch this. We're going to be inspecting it later. So I'm going to do Control X to exit. And here as well, it's the same thing. Nano bashrc. You can go scroll and look at it as much as you want. Control X to exit. So next, we're going to type sudo apt-get update. In the WSL terminal, I'm going to type sudo apt-get update. And sudo is just super user do. Because you're a super user do, you have to type in the password for the root guy. And the root guy is going to be Penguin, which is me. So just type in your password, and then it will update your WSL. And as you can see, there's a lot of updates. So I'll be back when all the updates are done. And now all my updates are done. Let's continue. First thing we have to do is update or install Git. Usually Git is installed, but we're just going to install Git just to double check. So first, run bashrc file by typing bash or source bashrc. This is only relevant if you're running a WSL terminal where your user and your computer are grayed out. As you can see here, it's grayed out, so I have to type source bashrc, or you can just type bash. So I'm going to do it just for completeness. Source bashrc or bash. Next, we're going to check if Git is installed. So git version. So it should be installed, but just in case it's not installed, let's install it. If Git is not installed, install Git with a sudo apt-get install Git. So sudo apt-get install Git. Enter. And as you can see here, Git's already the newest version. So Git version, Git is installed. We're going to install Buildozer build dependencies. So these are the Buildozer build dependencies that work on both Ubuntu 20, 22, and 24. But there's one dependency that does not work on 2404, which is libtinfo5. So this was discovered yesterday. And what happened was libtinfo5 doesn't exist on 2404. So if you see on kivy-school on setup buildozer and build dependencies, I split up the command right here just because if you combine libtinfo with the build install list, it's going to fail and it will say apt could not find libtinfo5. So just as a warning, if you need this for anything or if some things don't build, you can install it. Otherwise, you don't need to install it. It's just a legacy library just in case you need it. So let's install this first right here and then go back. So we're going to install the build dependencies, the ones that work. And as you can see, it's Ubuntu 2404. So I'm going to now go here to kivy-school on WSL2 setup, copy the clipboard, all the Buildozer build dependencies. Let's copy the clipboard, right click, and just press enter. And it will say a whole gigabyte of additional disk space will be used. I will say yeah, because I want to get my Python apps onto Android. We'll just continue. After these all install, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, now I'm back. And as you can see, all the Buildozer build dependencies have been installed. Now I will try and install libtinfo5. And as you can see, it will say unable to locate package libtinfo5. And this is on Ubuntu 2404. Now I've turned on my Ubuntu 2204. As you can see, it doesn't source my bashrc, so I have to type bash, or I can type source bashrc. And then I will also try and install libtinfo. So copy to clipboard, install libtinfo. It says right here, libtinfo is already the newest version. So in 24, it does not exist. In 22, it does exist. So that's just something to remember. That's why I had to split this requirement off onto its own, because it exists on 22 and below, doesn't exist in 24. So just something to warn you about. And again, we'll continue. Optionally, you can also install the legacy library, libtinfo5. Does not exist in Ubuntu 2404, but does exist in Ubuntu 20 and 22. Now we're going to install Pyenv. The reference is just the kivy-school Linux Ubuntu installation. So first, we're going to do git clone Pyenv right here. So I'm going to go to kivy-school, and then I will just copy the command so it's not mistyped. So here, I'm going to right-click the command, and I'm going to press enter. So it's going to clone into home penguin Pyenv. The next step is going to be to make Pyenv. So just copy this command and then right click, enter. So it's already made Pyenv. And so let's continue. So I've done this and I've done this. Next, we're going to add Pyenv to path. Okay, and just as a note, the path is changed from the Ubuntu install because you need to prevent your WSL Pyenv from trying to use Pyenv on Windows. So we're going to copy the clipboard, then right click. Then we're going to press enter. And as proof, I'm going to show you that these export commands went to bashrc. All we have to do is first, let's cd to home directory just so we don't mess anything up. Then I'm going to do nano, which is just a text editor, tilde /.bashrc. And then I'm going to either use the down arrow or the page down arrow if you have a full keyboard. And you can look right here. What did I say? I said to echo this command to bashrc. So if you can see right here, export Pyenv root home Pyenv. So the first command worked. The second command, we're going to say export path Pyenv root is bin path. So right here, export path root bin path. And it says echo right here, eval Pyenv init. As you can see right here, eval Pyenv init. So all of the export commands went to bashrc, and they also match all the quotes. Now what you're going to do is, if this is your first time dealing with Nano or with bashrc, do not change anything. You're just going to type command right here. But if you're new, there's just instructions at the bottom. You're going to type Control X to exit, Control X to exit. But let's say, for example, oh, I want to make just, a tiny change, or I accidentally made a change. It will be like this. I made one change, which is to enter one line. Now, if I press Control X, it will say save the modified buffer. If you're new, just say no. Just do Control N. Just say no, I don't want to save the modified buffer, just so your bashrc doesn't get destroyed. But if you're experienced, or at least you know what you changed, you can say, okay, I don't like that this export is too close to this line. I'm just going to press enter so I can read this bashrc file. This bashrc file is formatted the way I want. When I type Control X, I want to save this modified buffer. I can do Shift Y for yes. And then it will say the file name to write. Don't change it, just press enter. So then when you do nano bashrc again, I'm just pressing up arrow for the history. If I do nano bashrc, you go right here, a page down all the way, suddenly you see that it has been written to the file, this extra line or whatever changes you want to make. But because we're new and you're doing this installation guide, I suggest when you press Control X, do not save anything, press Control N. So right here, Control X, don't save anything, just press Shift N. All I did was prove to you that these echo exports went to bashrc. Okay, we've already added the path right here, and these are just two references. So this is just to stop WSL Pyenv from trying to use Pyenv on Windows. And again, these references are right here. So we're going to go to the next step. The next step is to check if Pyenv is installed. So you're going to close the terminal and open it again. That's one solution, but because you're watching this video, I'm going to show you a second solution. So if we do not close the terminal, as you can see right here, I'm going to type Pyenv version. What's going to happen? It's going to say, oh no, it's trying to use my C user's Pyenv. The Pyenv installed on my Windows. Oh no, isn't that such a terrible thing? Well, actually it's not, because we've already installed Pyenv. We've already installed it on our WSL side. We even told WSL where to export these commands. What's the change? The change is that we did not source bashrc. So after I type this command, Pyenv is going to work. Enter Pyenv version. Now it's going to work. Why? Because the bashrc got sourced and it updated all of our commands. So that's the one thing that you need to understand. The other way, the manual way, is to just close the terminal like this and then open it again. So enter WSL like this. And again, I'll prove to you if I copy like this that it's the new version 2404, which is the fresh version, which is what I'm installing everything on. As you can see, even if I ls, nothing exists. Ls should I say, I haven't touched this Ubuntu installation yet. That's the one thing. If you go here as well, when you go to step 3 and check if Pyenv is installed, it says close the terminal and open it again or source bashrc. Do not forget the step or else you will see an error. Type Pyenv version and it's installed. So there's no more errors. If you see something like Pyenv 2.3.14, you have successfully installed Pyenv. Then we're going to go to the next step, which is install Python using Pyenv. So here, again, in Kivy school as well, you're going to install Python 3.10.9, but you can install any version you want. I just like 3.10.9 because it's an old stable version. It's available almost everywhere. So on Kivy school, I'm actually going to copy this command. And then on my WSL side, I'm just going to right click and then enter. As you can see here, Python 3.10.9 is installed. So the next step is we're going to check our Python version. So we're going to type Pyenv versions and press enter. This will show you all the Python versions you have installed with Pyenv. We're going to type Pyenv versions. Enter. And as you can see, Python 3.10.9 is installed. So actually, I made a mistake. I said Python versions, and then it tried to go find the Python in my Windows side. Don't do that. It's Pyenv, not Python. The one reason why it's good to use Pyenv is I have a simple question for you. Where's your Python installed? So right now, because you freshly installed it, you're going to say, oh yeah, I know where my Python installed. Actually, it tells you right here, home penguin Pyenv version, right? But in 6 months, I'm going to ask you again, where's your Python installed, right? Nobody's going to remember this. You're going to install it in like any random place, and then you're going to manually put in the bash. That's not fun. That's not nice. And also, your installs are going to be messy. So if you just use Pyenv in order to handle your Python versions, it's good because you can just tell Pyenv to install new Python, to uninstall Python, and you don't have to wonder whether or not you have installed your Pythons in the correct place. That's why Pyenv is very good, because it knows where your Pythons are at and also sets your local and global versions. It's very good and very useful for when you're making multiple projects. So now we're going to go right here and then we're going to go to the next step, which is set the global Python version. We're going to type Pyenv global 3.10.9, and I'm going to press enter. This will set the global Python version to 3.10.9. Again, right here, it's the same information on Kivy School. We're going to check the Python version. We've already did that. We've set the global. Now we're going to check the global version. So Python version. And as you can see, we set the global to 3.10.9. Now the Python is 3.10.9. If you see Python 3.10.9 or whichever version you wanted to install, you've successfully set the global Python version to the correct version. So now we're going to continue. So next we're going to install Poetry. We're going to type this and press enter. This will install Poetry. And as proof, I'm just going to type Poetry right here. Gonna die. It's going to say command not found. That way we know it's a fresh environment. We're going to go right here. And then I'm going to just copy the clipboard right here. Right click to paste. Enter. Then it will install Poetry. And then we'll let it install. Okay. And as you can see right here, retrieving Poetry metadata. Poetry is installed. To get started, you need Poetry's bin directory, home, penguin, local bin in your path environment variable. Add export path to your shell config file. Alternatively, you can call Poetry explicitly. Let's just do the Kivy School instructions so we won't get confused. We'll just add Poetry to path, echo export, home local bin path to bashrc, and then we're going to match the echo. So echo export path. The home right here is going to be the same as home right here. And then the local bin is going to be the same. It's going to be the same. All we're going to do is just send it to bashrc. Every time we source bashrc or we type bash, this command will be executed and then our Poetry location is updated in our terminal. So we're going to copy the clipboard, right click, and then enter. And again, as proof, I'm going to go nano bashrc, and then I'll down arrow, but I really like page down because it's faster. As you can see right here, it's export path home local bin path is in our bashrc. And I will type again, Control X to leave the bashrc, and then we'll continue. So again, we've done this. We've added Poetry to path. Next step, close the terminal and open it again. Type Poetry version. So as you can see right here, I type it, Poetry version. It's going to cry and say, I haven't found Poetry. The terminal is telling me I haven't found Poetry. Well, what did I do wrong? Number one is I didn't reset the terminal, or you can just say source. Actually, I use source. I will type bash this time just to show both commands work. And then I'll type again, Poetry version. And as you can see, now I've found our version. So the same thing here too on check Poetry installation. Close the terminal and open it again, or source bashrc. Do not forget this step or else you will see an error. So here again, it says right here, I have Poetry version 1.8.3 on my new 2404. So I have Poetry version 1.8.3. So now I have Poetry installed. Now it's in my bashrc, and now it has been sourced. Let's continue. Next, we're going to do some Poetry configuration. Type this command and press enter. This will set the virtual environment to be created in the project folder. Right here, I'm going to copy it. It says virtual envs in project true, virtual envs in project true, and then I'll right click true. But there will be no response. It will just change the Poetry config. Next step is the second config. Poetry config virtual envs create is true. Press enter. This will set the virtual environment to be created automatically when you run Poetry install. We're going to go right here. Virtual env create is true. Right click, enter. Again, no response, but the Poetry config itself has been changed. Now we've installed Poetry, updated our terminal, and updated our configs. Let's continue. So the next step is installing the latest screen copy on WSL. So here's the reference. It's from the screen copy repo itself, right here on Jenny Mobile on GitHub. So again, it says you need to install this, clone it, etc., etc. So we're gonna follow the Kivy School instructions. For Ubuntu, at the time of writing, screen copy from apt is not yet the latest version, so we have to get it manually. And again, as you can see right here, I'm using Ubuntu 24, it's 1.25, but the latest version is 2.6.1. So we want to get the latest version, right? Let's build it manually. In WSL, we type this, and again, I will go on Kivy School, and I'm on step 6, which is install latest screen copy on WSL. Right here, I will just copy, or if you even go to the original documentation, you can copy here. But I'm going to copy here on Kivy School, then right click. And again, it looks strange, but as you can see here, this is the line continuation command. So we'll type enter, and then they're all going to be installed. An additional 355 megabytes will be used. So I'm going to say yes, and then it will install. Next, we'll continue. Next, CD to home directory. I'm going to CD here. And again, as well, CD to home directory. So we'll CD here. I'm already there, but just for completion's sake. Then we'll clone the repo and we'll run the installer. So right now, all we have are the build dependencies. And we'll actually get the repo and run the installer. So I can copy the clipboard and then enter. And it's already cloning into a home directory screen copy. And then CD screen copy. As you can see, I am in the screen copy folder. Now I'll run install release.sh. And here it's actually building screen copy 2.6.1. And then screen copy is installed. So here's just some more information. To update, you can go right here, or to uninstall. So it's the same information here. To update, go to screen copy and then update repo and reinstall. Or to uninstall, cd screen copy and then run this command to uninstall screen copy. And then as well, let's check if screen copy is installed. scrcpy. As you can see, it's trying to connect to my phone, but it's not connecting because I haven't connected my phone yet. But at least we know it's running and it's installed. So also, I'll cd back the home folder. Then we'll continue. The screen copy automatically installs ADB. The next slides are left as a reference in case you need to manually install ADB. So we'll test if you have ADB by typing in your manual ADB. And as you can see, it's already installed. It was not installed before, but in the installation of screen copy, it gets you a copy of ADB. And again, how do I install ADB in WSL? So screen copy should automatically install ADB for you, but if you need to install ADB manually, here are the steps to do it in WSL Ubuntu. Just say apt-get install ADB and then check if it's installed. And then here's the next step, which is the optional step, which is to use VcXsrv instead of WSLg. So WSLg is the default window provider. It comes pre-installed with WSL, and it's ugly, just as a subjective opinion. Then VcXsrv is a native window. It looks good. Here's a con though. You might confuse Windows apps with WSL apps when developing, and it's more installation work. So I'm just going to quickly make a quick Hello World on WSLg, and we'll just show you. So WSLg is already installed on your WSL2. So for me, I like to put all of my programming and coding. So let's go cd coding, but it's going to fail because the folder doesn't exist. So I'll do mkdir to make directory coding right here, then cd coding. Also, capitalization matters. If I go up, try cd to coding right here, it's going to fail because it doesn't exist. But cd all caps coding does. Oh, sorry. I'm going to make a directory of Hello World, just HW, cd to Hello World. Then I'll do code dot. And this is why we're recommending for you to use VSCode, because as you can see right here, it's going to install VSCode server for Linux. And what it's going to do is it's going to let me code in WSL through my Windows. And then I will prepare a just simple Hello World, and then I'll come back in a little bit. Quick Hello World example from Kivy School. I'm just going to copy it like this. It's going to be quick and dirty. And then I'm going to go show the VS Code. So do you trust the authors? Yes, the author is me. I'm just going to make a new file called main.py. Right here. Control V to paste. Control S to save. Do you want to install the recommended Python extension? Yeah, let's do it. It's already installed actually. Interesting. Now I'm going to do Control J just to open the terminal. And this terminal is a WSL terminal. As you notice, it's already a WSL terminal. Technically, with the old terminal, I can just turn it off. So I'm going to do poetry init just to set up a poetry virtual environment. Yeah. And then it needs an author. So I'm going to say it's me. And then it'll keep going. Let's press enter, yes. Poetry spell. Just to enter the poetry virtual environment. Virtual env is being made. Poetry add kivy. Then we're going to add kivy. This doesn't even use kivy-reloader. It's just basic kivy itself. Okay, and then we're going to type python main.py. As you can see, it's going this. You might get this error. You don't have to worry about it. This is a WSLG window. It's welcome to Kivy School, and it has this white border. It's the same as the PowerPoint, which you can see right here. Welcome to Kivy School. And then you will see this is the WSLG version. Now I'll show you a native window. So I'm back. So there are 3 things I had to do to switch from WSLG to VcXsrv. The first was that in WSL config, I had to turn off my GUI applications. Just set it to false. The second, I had to turn on my VcXsrv. As you can see right here, I've turned it on. The third thing was I had to export this command onto my bashrc. Next, we'll run it. So I'll do python main.py. This is my new Kivy Hello World window. It basically looks the same as a native Windows window, and it doesn't have the white border. So I think this is fine, and I personally prefer this to the WSLG version. So now that you've seen both windows, well, you have a choice. Do you want WSLG or do you want VcXsrv and have this kind of window? The next step is going to be showing how you can enable VcXsrv to work on your own device. So now we're in step 1. If you want to use VcXsrv, we're going to turn off WSLG, and this is the reference. Again, the same as here. This is the reference. We're going to need to turn off WSLG because it takes priority over VcXsrv. Make a WSL config in your user profile directory. So I have my VBox user, and then right here, it's WSL config. So here you can see it's in my user Raptor Patrol Core WSL config. UI application is false. So again, we're going to add GUI applications is false. And then we're going to restart WSL in CMD. In my command prompt, I'm going to do WSL shutdown. Now we're going to install VcXsrv. We're going to install VcXsrv through GitHub and this link. So I'm not going to click it through this PowerPoint. I'm going to go to Kivy School. We're going to go to step 6. We're going to go to the link, install on GitHub. Now I'm going to explain to you, there's a bajillion versions. We're going to get the regular to release, which is this one. You don't need the debug. Do not get this one. Do not get this one. You don't need no admin. You don't need this one. You don't need a debug version. And then these versions are basically, if you're like for an older machine, if it's like a X32, you just get VcXsrv 21. So for me, I'm running an X64. I'm going to get VcXsrv 64 installer.exe. Okay, so here it says there's basically this virus. Affected items is this. I don't think that's correct. You will just say allow. Okay, so this is a pretty new issue actually, as the time of recording. It's saying that it's a Trojan, as you can see here. I've run this before. It's not a Trojan unless it got injected with the Trojan. I don't think it's a Trojan. Anyways, you just say yeah and then run anyways. And then they're just saying, okay, it's a virus detected, but it's not a virus. It's just an X server for, running a window. Next, we're going to run the installer. Windows will protect your PC. Click more info and run anyways. And click yes. And the defaults are okay. Click next. As you can see here, they're the same. VcXsrv, fonts, start menu shortcuts, desktop shortcuts. And the defaults are also okay. As you can see here, you can install wherever you want. And then click install. As you're installing. Next, go to where you installed VcXsrv and start xlaunch.exe. So we're running xlaunch.exe, and as you can see right here, there's multiple windows is checked. Display number -1 is okay. Then we can click next. Next, the defaults are okay. Start no client is okay. Click next. The one change you're going to do is disable access control. As you can see here, there's a check mark. Disable access control and click next. So don't finish yet. We need to save our configuration. This is because we need to run the VcX server on the host windows right here. we need to run it so that Kivy on WSL has an X server to connect to on your home Windows. If you do not run this, Kivy on your WSL side will try to connect to basically no server at all, and then you won't see a window. That's why we need to save this configuration and then run it every time we want to run Kivy with VcXsrv. So what we're going to do is save configuration, and then we're going to save the launch profile on our desktop. It's going to be kivy-wsl.xlaunch. So save configuration, and then right here it's going to be kivy-wsl.xlaunch right here. Now that we've installed VcXsrv, now you'll have kivy-wsl-xlaunch on your desktop. If you want to see a GUI application when running WSL2, you need to run kivy-wsl.xlaunch. You need to run kivy-wsl.xlaunch. This is especially true because WSLg is also disabled, so there's no backup window provider. If you want to go back to WSLg, simply remove the WSL config file created earlier, and then WSLg will take over. When you run, you might get a firewall alert. Just enable on private and public networks. Otherwise, you'll have to do it manually later using Windows Firewall.msc. So here's my kivy-wsl.xlaunch. Right now, I will exit all of my previous instances. Exit, then exit. Then I will just run it. So I'm going to double click and then run. And you will know if it's running if you see an X server right here on your system tray. But otherwise, you might get the Windows Firewall alert. Just allow on private networks and allow on public networks. This is because WSL needs to connect to X server through your local network internally on your computer. So you'll know VcXsrv is running when you click on the system tray and you see the VcXsrv icon. Every time you want a window from WSL, you must run the launch config. So now you have two options. You can add a shortcut on Windows Desktop, which this tutorial has provided for you, or you can add that config to Windows Startup. And every time you turn on your computer, kivy-wsl-xlaunch will always run. That's totally fine too. Next, we're going to update WSL and export display to send to VcXsrv. So here's our reference. It's a Stack Overflow reference. Basically, what this means is that we need to send the display as our host Windows IP, and then this :00, because that's going to be the display window of 00 on VcXsrv. Our key, WSL, and as you can see here, this is Ubuntu 2404. This is the new Ubuntu, the fresh Ubuntu. Now we're going to do echo export display. So I'm going to go to Kivy School, and I'm going to scroll down and copy that command. Echo export display, copy the clipboard, and then go on WSL, right click to paste. Then press enter. Now you can see it works. Why? Because we can even say echo $sign display. And then this will be, you can even check on Nano bashrc. If I go Nano bashrc, we can page down all the way or print down. And as you can see right here, I've done it before. This is because I needed to export this display on my bashrc to get the VcXsrv window running the first time in the very beginning that I showed you the Kivy Windows Hello World window. So I'd already exported this display. But again, because I know I don't need two of this, I'm just going to delete it. Go like this. We can even observe for ourselves, export display $grep -m1 name server at resolve conf, then awk, then print 200 in bashrc. So because I've changed it, because I knew there were two displays, when I press Control X exit, you want to save modified buffer. I know what I did. I know it's not going to break anything. So I'm going to say Shift Y, capital Y for yes, file name to write, enter. This command has been modified to work correctly with export. This lets WSL find your Windows IP and send display information to VcXsrv on your Windows machine. This is because WSL2 does not share the local host of your Windows machine. In WSL1, you could just do export display localhost 0, but WSL1 is not compatible with Buildozer. Okay, so this is what should be in your bashrc file. So again, I'm going to go back on WSL. I'm going to nano bashrc down or do page down. It's export, display, grep, etc. Resolve, conf, awk, print 2. Next, we're going to allow VcXsrv in your Windows Defender firewall. So this is another Stack Overflow answer. In Windows command prompt, type wf.msc. In my old command prompt, I can simply type wf.msc. Here it's going to open Windows Defender Firewall. What we want is allow VcXsrv in Windows Defender Firewall. If you did not say yes to allowing VcXsrv, you must say it here, because if the firewall blocks the connection the WSL is trying to make to your host Windows, you will simply not have a window show on your host window. I will show you right here. Allow VcXsrv in Windows Defender Firewall. Inbound rules. Make sure VcXsrv is allowed on everything. So go right here. I'm asking for inbound rules. And then here, we're going to let VCX Windows Server allowed on everything. We're going to double click, allow the connection. Double click, allow the connection. Double click, allow connection. Double click, allow connection. Next, we're going to do a proper Git setup for WSL. And why this is important is because your Git clone will not be configured correctly on your WSL side unless you do these steps. These are the official Microsoft tutorial steps where they tell you you can let WSL use your Git credentials on your Windows side so that the information is transferred over. And this lets you Git clone, Git pull, Git push, and do all the things you want and get all the repos from GitHub. So what you should do is install Git Credential Manager and use it as your credential manager on Windows. So here's the Stack Overflow reference. Since Git 239 in Windows command prompt, git config global credential helper manager, or in older Git versions in Windows command prompt, you type git config global credential helper manager core. Make sure that Git Credential Manager is used by Git on your host Windows. Right here, this is the reference. And then the reference is, you should enter this. This is because after Git 238.1, it is called Manager and it's no longer called Manager Core. As you can see here, the difference. To use Git Credential Manager from Windows on your WSL setup, type the correct command. So here, if your Git is greater than 239, type this. If it's greater than 236, type this. And if it's less than 236, type this. This is the official Windows documentation. If your Git is installed, you type this. If your Git is installed like this, you type this. If your version is really low, you type this. And this will be on your WSL side. The reminder, you always bash in WSL. Every time you enter WSL and the terminal has no color, you must manually update the terminal, typing bash or source bashrc. And again, right here, if their terminal has no color, you can type bash or you can type source bashrc. If you do not do this, path will not be updated and nothing will work. So WSL2 Ubuntu 24.04 automatically sources bashrc from my experience. So as a recap, what have we done so far? We made sure you had a real Android phone, you have a USB cable, VSCode on Windows with a WSL extension, and WSL2. On WSL2, we installed Git, Pyenv, Python installed through Pyenv. We installed Poetry and scrcpy, and scrcpy automatically installs ADB. We also have Chocolatey on Windows, and we installed scrcpy through Chocolatey on Windows. And this scrcpy on Windows as well automatically installs ADB. Optionally, you can use VcXsrv for native Windows instead of WSLg. So congratulations! Now it is time to learn how to use kivy-reloader on WSL. Now you're ready to start an Android Kivy project in WSL. So go to Kivy School, Installation, and then we'll see you there. Before you go, a couple useful commands to know on the WSL side. mkdir is make directory, and rm-r removes the folder recursively. I'm going to give you some tips for first-time WSL users. Always source bashrc. Every time you enter the terminal and there's no color, just source bashrc. Let's say you have installed VcXsrv but no Windows shows. If you installed VcXsrv but no Windows shows, remember to turn on kivy-wsl.x launch if you have VcXsrv installed, so your WSL apps will show on your Windows desktop. And then here again, the useful commands, make directory and remove a directory. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you will have fun using kivy-reloader. I hope it saves you a lot of time. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next part.